I would argue that were it not for the internet, Barack Obama would not be president. It wasn't just because of the new media, it was about the way that he used the internet to fundraise, to organize, to really break through just the traditional ways of doing politics.
Since the mid-1990s, a new force has emerged to reshape modern society: the internet. One aspect of society that the internet has changed significantly is politics. From the way politicians campaign and connect with their voters, to the ways that an average citizen change their voting and research habits. In order to showcase how vastly the web is changing politics, this video will focus on data and accessibility. Data is the marker of all we do, the trace of our digital experience. Very few would deny a rapid increase of data importance in society's day-to-day lives. From personalized social media feeds to tailored web search engine results, data has influence over almost everything we do online. The biggest challenge over data is who controls that information and what rights users have. These questions are not only important for IT world, but also for fundamental human rights and politics. There are two ways for politicians to use data analysis. They can either use it for the common good, or they can use it for their own personal gain. So, how exactly can politicians use data to their advantage? The majority of Facebook's 2 billion individual users had operated for years without knowing the real cost that is only starting to become clear now. Even though the users may not have monthly payment schemes of certain amount of money, they surely pay for the site with their information, or so-called data. What users see in their feed is algorithmically tailored to their identity and interaction history with a site. There are no democratic checks or controls on this power in most of the countries around the globe. The dangers become apparent when third parties are allowed to use those algorithms to target a specific audience for political ends.
This Liberal Party campaign ad defends a woman's right to choose.
Un pays qui préserve le droit des femmes de choisir.
If you're a man, you probably haven't seen it. That's because this Facebook ad is shown only to women who live in Quebec.
And you can see that from the data.
Philip May runs Ryerson University's social media lab, tracking how political parties are spending ad dollars online. So far, the Liberals have produced 5 times more Facebook ads than the Conservatives, each often aimed at a very specific audience.
They've been able to create basically a tsunami of various ads targeting various groups of people.
This ad, featuring Trudeau in a cowboy hat, is shown to older voters in Alberta.
Nous choisissons d'avancer.
Well, this one only appears on the Facebook pages of young men in Quebec, and the ability to target specific groups goes far beyond gender and province.
You can slice and dice the public any which way you want.
Facebook's algorithm uses everything from your likes to your exact location to produce a personality profile that's used to make micro-targeted ads, a powerful tool for companies and political parties.
It's not only tailored targeting that is dangerous, but also a creation of the filter bubbles. In other words, if a person and its friends supported Hillary Clinton during the US presidential election, it is most likely that they were extremely shocked to learn that Trump won. How could he? The filter bubble created a feeling that everyone around is supporting Hillary. Eli Pariser, an author and media activist, explains this concept in his TEDx talk.
There's this kind of shift in how information is flowing online, and it's invisible. And if we don't pay attention to it, it could be a real problem. So I first noticed this in a place I spend a lot of time, my Facebook page. I'm progressive politically, big surprise, but I've always gone out of my way to meet conservatives. I like hearing what they're thinking about. I like seeing what they link to. I like learning a thing or two. And so I was kind of surprised when I noticed one day that the conservatives had disappeared from my Facebook feed. And what it turned out was going on was that Facebook was looking at which links I clicked on. And it was noticing that actually I was clicking more on my liberal friends' links than on my conservative friends' links. And without consulting me about it, it had edited them out. They disappeared. And where this moves us very quickly toward a world in which the internet is showing us what it thinks we want to see, but not necessarily what we need to see. As Eric Schmidt said, it'll be very hard for people to watch or consume something that has not, in some sense, been tailored for them. So I do think this is a problem. And I think if you take all of these filters together, if you take all of these algorithms, you get what I call a filter bubble. And your filter bubble is kind of your own personal, unique universe of information that you live in online. And what's in your filter bubble depends on who you are, and it depends on what you do. But the thing is that you don't decide what gets in. And more importantly, you don't actually see what gets edited out.
However, it wouldn't be fair to say that data is only an evil tool. Data is knowledge, and knowledge is power, which is one of the reasons why data has changed the way we think about politics in many positive ways as well. Used effectively, data can help a party better understand the concerns of the voters, more efficiently use its resources, and directly speak to citizens on the issues that matter to them the most. Data and its analysis can be used by healthcare heads to determine where best to allocate funds. It can be used by foreign ministers to simulate complex trade agreements or to predict the long-term effects of uncertain political situations. All of the collected data can be easily used in order to make government policy better.
These data are absolutely necessary to understand public policy, to understand how policy interacts with the economy, to understand how policy interacts with individual people and individual families.
Policy Lab was set up to support departments to use digital design and data techniques to make policies better. We combine data science, which uses really powerful computer techniques and applies them to huge amounts of data, really complex stuff. And we combine that with ethnography, which takes human experiences and behaviours and emotions and really tries to understand why people do what they do. And we bring these things together, we combine them, and we share them with a diverse range of people to come up with amazing new ideas to make government better.
In order to further understand web's influence over politics, it's important to analyze what impact does the internet have over accessibility to transparency, freedom of speech, and information. Almost every process in people's day-to-day lives has moved online and is easily accessible via apps on mobile devices, tablets, or even watches. Now, it is easier than ever for citizens to be informed about hiring or monitoring and give feedback to their employees, in this case, their government representatives. As more tools become available online, politics are becoming much more transparent, allowing people to reach far more information than ever before.
You know, there's long been a practice in politics called opposition research. It's where your opponent digs up all the dirt they can find on you. But in the age of social media, that could be useless, because it turns out showing vulnerability is shrewd politics. Everyone likes a story, and everyone has a story to tell. Today's candidates will not accept that their experience is disqualifying simply because no one like them has run before. Look at Stacey Abrams. She's hoping to be the first African-American governor of Georgia. Her opponent said, she's in debt, she's unqualified. She said, yeah, like millions of Americans, I have debt, but I won't feel ashamed that I needed a loan to get an education or to support myself. And with her response, she shut down that line of criticism and made herself more relatable. Look at Beto O'Rourke. He's documented almost every moment of his campaign on social media, and it's introduced him to millions of Americans and helped him to raise an unprecedented $40 million in 3 months. Even if these campaigns are unsuccessful this time, they will have changed how campaigns communicate going forward. But beyond campaigns, social media has made government more transparent. Who would have thought our 72-year-old president would get every member of Congress to use Twitter?
Not only transparency is creating more open and accessible politics, but as well as mobilized participation in a new platform for freedom of speech, allowing far more people to be reached in a short amount of time.
In the 20th century, if you had something to say in public, you couldn't, period. Right? If you were a civilian, if you were a citizen but not a media professional, you could not broadcast a message, no matter how hard you tried. In fact, people who went out of their way to try to get messages out in public through amateur channels, right, holding up signs on the street or, by the roadside, were widely regarded as being kind of off their rockers. And that change is enormous, that anyone who wants to participate, has at least the means to participate, is a huge change. So in that sense of the word democratic, the web has been this huge increase in the participatory logic of the media environment.
Society needs to remain critical, as the same benefits of the web have its very own negatives, and usually the line between is very blurred and difficult to indicate. The overload of information can lead to absolute confusion and distraction of society from real issues in politics.
Well, there's much more information out there. There are many more distractions. The web is a huge diversion from all sorts of central political activities. And the evidence, I think, of the last 20 years is that while the web has democratized all sorts of aspects of our lives, it's democratized celebrity, it's, as it were, easier and quicker to become a celebrity. People have much more access to sites to express their opinion. Anyone can have a blog. Politics in the West has become less democratic. The elites have become narrower. It's husband and wife teams, it's Bill and Hillary, it's the Miliband brothers. You find that people who were at university together 20 years ago are now sharing power in Washington or in London. So there's a narrowing of political elites at the same time as there's this huge democratization of all sorts of other aspects of our lives. Is the web responsible for this? No, but is the web the kind of distraction, creator of endless diversions, huge amounts of different stories, fast turnover of news that makes it easier for the politicians just to carry on with their private games? Yes.
However, politicians themselves are also concerned about mass spread of fake and exaggerated news. Obama was one of the first US presidential candidates that widely used social media and has spoken about the issue.
We have more media than ever to choose from. But with that also comes lies, hoaxes, and other fake news stories that are spread further on social media platforms. And while it's not a new phenomena, the election has cast a light on misinformation online and its real-world political implications. At a press briefing with German Chancellor Angela Merkel in Berlin, President Obama spoke about the impact he believes fake news can have on democracy.
In an age of social media where so many people are getting their information in sound bites and snippets off their phones, if we can't discriminate between serious arguments and propaganda, then we have problems. If everything seems to be the same and no distinctions are made, then we won't know what to protect. We won't know what to fight for.
Freedom of speech is undeniable fundamental right of all humans. However, freedom of speech online may create different issues, as majority of people will choose to remain anonymous in order to express their opinions.
The question of anonymity in the web is a pretty interesting one. If you spend any time in political discussions or any kind of lifestyle discussion on the web, forums and postings and so on, you could see that the conversation typically degenerates to a very uncivil level quickly, particularly when and as the people who are posting are anonymous. You don't know who they really are. They lack accountability. People feel free to say whatever they want, And that's one downside to anonymity. There are others. At the same time, in the American tradition, protections for anonymous speech are pretty solidly entrenched in First Amendment law. And in a way, the ability to speak and be heard separate from your identity is important, especially in extreme political cases, especially where there could be repercussions to free speech. The ability to speak in a way where who you are is not known is valuable. I would even say precious sometimes. So there's a kind of a balancing act of social interest that I will frankly say different countries draw the line in different places, and I don't think one size necessarily fits all.
In conclusion, we are at this stage in our history of trying to determine how to maximize the positive aspects of what is extremely powerful and valuable communications technologies, while minimizing what are clearly problematic aspects of such technologies, which include their manipulation, trying to subvert the democratic discourse.
I think the internet empowers anyone who can use it, and it empowers the people who can use it most effectively even more. It can empower a government to repress an insurrection. It can empower the insurrection itself. It's a double-edged sword. Despite what the boosters of the internet say, technology, no kind of technology is a cure for human nature. Technology is an amplification of human nature, an amplification of all aspects of human nature.